same moment, where heroes are made in real time, where legends are cemented or destroyed forever under the most unforgiving lights on the planet. The Super Bowl is supposed to be the greatest spectacle in American sports. But here's the truth that nobody in the NFL offices will ever say out loud. Some Super Bowls have been absolutely, historically, catastrophically terrible. Not just disappointing, not just a little flat. Terrible in a way that made you put your chips down, look at the people around you, and ask yourself why you cleared your entire Sunday for this. Games so lopsided you knew the outcome before halftime. Games so sloppy that professional football looked like something being played by people who had never practiced before. Today, we are going to know about the 10 worst Super Bowls in NFL history, ranked by how badly, how completely, how devastatingly they failed the moment. Every fact you are about to hear is verified. Every number is real. And by the time we reach number 1, a 55-10 destruction so total, so historically embarrassing that people still reference it 35 years later with the same horrified disbelief, you will understand why some Super Bowls should come with an apology. The setup for Super Bowl XLI was genuinely compelling. Peyton Manning, the quarterback who spent his entire career being called a choker, the man who could not win when it mattered, was finally on the biggest stage in the sport. Standing across from him were the Chicago Bears and Devin Hester, the most dangerous return specialist the NFL had ever produced. A young man so terrifyingly fast that the entire football world spent the week debating whether the Colts would dare kick the ball in his direction. And then it rained and rained and rained. Miami's Dolphin Stadium was drenched on February 4th, 2007, the first Super Bowl in history ever played in continuous heavy rainfall. The field was slick, the ball was wet. What should have been a showcase became a sloppy, turnover-riddled exercise in survival. For exactly 13 seconds, everything was perfect. The opening kickoff went to Devin Hester, who caught it at his own 8-yard line and scorched 92 yards into the end zone. History was made. The first opening kickoff return for a touchdown in Super Bowl history. The crowd erupted, and then the game died. Rex Grossman was undone by the conditions and the Colts defense. He threw 2 interceptions. Chicago committed 5 total turnovers against Indianapolis's 3. Colts spent the rest of the game squib kicking and punting out of bounds specifically to keep Hester from touching the ball again. It worked. He barely touched it the entire rest of the night. Indianapolis outscored Chicago 23-3 after the first quarter. The rain had drowned every chance this game had of becoming something worth remembering. Nobody gave the San Diego Chargers a chance in Super Bowl XXIX. The San Francisco 49ers had won 4 championships in the previous decade. They had Jerry Rice, and at quarterback, they had Steve Young, who had spent years living in the shadow of Joe Montana and was now going to prove something with an intensity that was almost frightening to witness on the biggest stage in the sport. Steve Young threw a touchdown on the very first drive, then another, then another. By the time the dust settled, Steve Young had thrown 6 touchdown passes in a single Super Bowl, a record that still stands today, more than 30 years later. He did it not with desperation, not with struggle, but with the relaxed efficiency of a man who decided the afternoon was his before the national anthem finished. Jerry Rice caught 3 of those touchdowns because of course he did. The Chargers had 0 answers on any level. In the trenches, in coverage, in talent, in scheme. The final score of 49-26 was flattering for San Diego. By the middle of the second quarter, the game was over in every meaningful sense. A coronation is not a football game, and this was never a football game.
Before a single play was run in Super Bowl XXXVII, the Oakland Raiders were already in crisis. Their starting center, Barrett Robbins, had vanished the night before the game. He was not found until the following morning, disoriented across the border in Tijuana, Mexico. He missed the entire Super Bowl. An organizational disaster of staggering scale had arrived before the opening whistle. But the most devastating story of this game was not Barrett Robbins. It was John Gruden. Gruden had coached the Raiders for 4 seasons. He installed their offense. He designed their signals. He knew every tendency, every audible, every protection call, because he had built all of it himself. Then Oakland traded him to Tampa Bay, and 13 months later he stood on the opposite sideline from his former team, armed with 4 years of insider knowledge and zero mercy. The Buccaneers' defense read every Oakland signal. They jumped every route. They intercepted Raiders quarterback Rich Gannon 5 times and returned 3 of those interceptions for touchdowns. The Oakland offense, which had been one of the most dynamic units in football all season, looked completely foreign to itself. Final score, Tampa Bay 48, Oakland 21. The Raiders have not returned to a Super Bowl in the more than 2 decades since. A coach used his former team's own secrets to dismantle them in front of the entire world. There was not a single thing Oakland could do about it. There's a very specific kind of suffering that comes with watching a historically great defense erase an offense so completely that the offense cannot even cross midfield. The Baltimore Ravens defense that season was one of the most dominant units in the history of professional football. Ray Lewis, Rod Woodson, Dwayne Starks, a group that led the NFL in points allowed and steamrolled through the playoffs without breaking a sweat. Kerry Collins, the Giants quarterback, threw 4 interceptions and was sacked 4 times. The New York offense crossed midfield exactly once the entire game. Their only points came not from any offensive play, but from Ron Dixon returning a kickoff for a touchdown. The Giants' offense itself did not score a single point all night. 34-7 was not just a loss, it was an erasure. For football purists who love elite defense, this game was a masterpiece. For everyone else, for the 100 million people who turned on their televisions hoping to watch a competitive championship game, it was one of the most hollow, one-sided, and joyless Super Bowl experiences in history. Welcome to the Blunder Bowl. That is the actual nickname the football world gave Super Bowl XXIV when it ended, and 54 years later, every syllable still fits perfectly. Defensive lineman Bubba Smith of the winning Colts publicly refused to wear his championship ring because he found the quality of play so embarrassing. A man who won the Super Bowl was so ashamed of how the game was played that he wanted no reminder it had ever happened. 11 combined turnovers. The Baltimore Colts alone committed 7 of them, the most turnovers ever recorded by a winning team in Super Bowl history. The Dallas Cowboys set a Super Bowl record with 10 penalties, costing themselves 133 yards of field position. Johnny Unitas was knocked out of the game in the second quarter. Officiating decisions left both teams and most viewers furious. The situation became so absurd that the game's most valuable player was a man from the losing team. Cowboys linebacker Chuck Howley intercepted 2 passes and forced a fumble. Voters awarded him the Super Bowl MVP, making him the first defensive player and permanently the only player from a losing team to ever receive that honor in NFL history. Howley later mentioned the only reason he even accepted the award was because it came with a brand new station wagon. That one detail tells you everything about the spirit of this game. The Colts won on a 32-yard field goal with 5 seconds remaining. There was drama, but it was the drama of 2 teams frantically surviving their own mistakes, not the drama of greatness competing against greatness. The Blunder Bowl remains the most embarrassingly played Super Bowl in history. By the time Super Bowl XX kicked off in January of 1986, the football world had already accepted that the Chicago Bears were historically, generationally dominant. They had gone 15-1. They had filmed a rap video called the Super Bowl Shuffle before the playoffs even started, with the complete confidence of a team that already knew how the story would end. Their defense, coordinated by the ferocious Buddy Ryan, is still argued today as the greatest in professional football history. And when the New England Patriots arrived in New Orleans, they were about to receive the most definitive education in that fact the game has ever produced. New England took early a field goal to lead 3-0. It is the only offensive point the Bears allowed during the entire postseason, because after that field goal, Chicago scored 44 consecutive unanswered points. The Bears recorded 7 sacks. They forced 6 turnovers. They held New England to just 7 rushing yards the entire game. Their quarterback, Tony Eason, was so completely overwhelmed in the first quarter that he was pulled having completed 0 passes for 0 yards. He didn't want to go back in. Nobody could blame him. The final score of 46-10 was the largest margin of victory in Super Bowl history at that time. It was not a football game. It was a formal demonstration of what happens when the greatest defensive unit ever assembled faces a team with absolutely no answers for it.
The odds makers set the over-under at 56 points going into Super Bowl XLIII. The Los Angeles Rams had averaged 32.9 points per game that season, one of the most prolific offenses in NFL history. Their head coach, Sean McVay, was the youngest offensive genius in the league. The football world expected a shooting gallery. They got a library. The entire first quarter ended 0-0. The halftime score was 3-0, the lowest halftime total since 1975. The Rams had generated 57 total yards in the first half. Their punter, Johnny Hekker, became the most active player on Los Angeles' side of the ball, punting 6 times before halftime and setting a Super Bowl record with a 65-yard boot. Genuinely the most impressive offensive play the Rams produced all evening. Jared Goff finished 3 for 10 on 3rd down, the worst percentage of his career. He went 0 for 5 passes thrown 20 or more yards downfield. The Rams punted on each of their first 8 possessions, a Super Bowl record for offensive futility. Their 9th 3rd down attempt of the game came with roughly 4 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. That was the first one they converted. The only touchdown of the night came with 7 minutes remaining when Sony Michel ran 2 yards into the end zone. 1 touchdown in the Super Bowl. 13-3 was the final score, the lowest combined total in the history of this game, a record that still stands today. After the game, McVay publicly admitted he had been outcoached. When the man who designed one of the most explosive offenses in NFL history says that out loud, you know exactly what kind of night it was. Super Bowl XXII carries 2 stories simultaneously. One of the most beautiful individual performances in championship game history, and one of the most catastrophic single-quarter collapses a team has ever suffered on this stage. The beautiful story is Doug Williams. Williams became the first African-American quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl, a moment of genuine and lasting historical importance. He delivered one of the most stunning individual performances the game had ever seen, with a composure and precision that was extraordinary to witness on the biggest stage in football. Washington entered the second quarter trailing 10-0. The Broncos had dominated the first 15 minutes completely. Everything pointed toward a Broncos victory. And then, in 18 minutes that live forever in Super Bowl history, the Redskins scored 35 points in a single quarter. Doug Williams threw 4 touchdown passes in that quarter alone. His receivers caught everything. The Denver defense collapsed completely and without any logical explanation. At halftime, the score was 42-10. The game was over. John Elway finished with a passer rating of 19.4, completing just 10 of 26 attempts for 108 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. 35 points in 1 quarter is astonishing, but a game decided at halftime still fails its audience, and this one absolutely did. There are moments in sports that break your heart even when you're not emotionally invested. Moments where you watch a great man at the absolute peak of his powers face something he cannot overcome, and you feel the weight of it even as a neutral observer. This was that moment for Peyton Manning. The 2013 Denver Broncos were statistically the greatest offensive team professional football had ever seen. Manning had thrown 55 touchdown passes that season, a record that had never been touched. He'd been named NFL Most Valuable Player for a record 5th time. The Broncos had scored more points than any team in the history of the sport. 12 seconds into the game, center Manny Ramirez snapped the ball over Manning's head as he walked to the line calling an audible.
The football sailed into the end zone. Running back Notion Moreno dove on it but was immediately down for a safety, the fastest score in Super Bowl history. Manning walked to the sideline with an expression that suggested he already understood what the next 3 hours were going to feel like. Seattle's Legion of Boom secondary, Shertman Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor, did not just defend the Broncos, they intimidated them. They hit receivers so violently that players began dropping catchable balls the moment defenders approached. At the end of the first quarter, Denver had gained 11 yards on 7 plays. Seattle had scored 4 times before the Broncos recorded their first down of the game. Percy Harvin returned the second-half opening kickoff 87 yards for a touchdown. Manning threw 2 interceptions. The final score was 43-8. The greatest offense in NFL history had been held to 8 points. One of the greatest quarterbacks who ever lived finished his most important game looking completely helpless. John Elway stood in the tunnel afterwards and said quietly, "Disappointment, because I just know how hard these guys worked this whole year." Even a man who had suffered his own Super Bowl humiliations had no words adequate for what he had just watched. This was a massacre, and it was not close for a single moment. 55-10. Sit with that number, because after 59 Super Bowls have been played, after every miracle comeback, every last-second iconic moment this game has produced, 55-10 is still the largest margin of victory in the history of the Super Bowl. It has never been surpassed. It has never been matched. And when you understand the full context of how it happened, you understand why this is not just the worst Super Bowl ever played, but one of the most stunning acts of professional football destruction ever witnessed on any stage. The 1989 San Francisco 49ers finished 14-2, the best record in football. Joe Montana was playing the most efficient and most precise football of his legendary career. Jerry Rice was the most dangerous receiver on the planet, and across from them stood John Elway and the Denver Broncos, a franchise that had already lost 2 Super Bowls, with Elway carrying every pound of that weight into this game. Elway desperately wanted this one. He changed his entire routine. He grew his hair long as a superstitious measure. He publicly told CBS broadcaster Terry Bradshaw, who predicted a final score of something close to 55-3, to keep that prediction to himself. Bradshaw was almost exactly right. Joe Montana was transcendent. He completed 22 of 29 passes, a completion percentage of 75.9, for 297 yards and 5 touchdown passes, setting a Super Bowl record. His receivers caught everything. The Denver defense collapsed completely and without any logical explanation. San Francisco led 27-3 at halftime. They possessed the ball for 39 minutes and 31 seconds. Denver held it for 20 minutes and 29 seconds. The 49ers outgained the Broncos 461 yards to 167. They recorded 28 first downs. Denver managed 12. And John Elway, Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the 10 greatest players in NFL history, completed 10 of 26 passes for 108 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 19.4. He fumbled twice. There was not a single possession in this game that Denver looked like a team with a realistic path to winning. By the fourth quarter, Montana had been replaced by backup Steve Young, the man who would inherit this very dynasty and win his own Super Bowl 5 years later, and San Francisco was still scoring. The Broncos had now lost in the Super Bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years. The franchise fell apart the following season, going 5-11. Montana walked off the field in New Orleans as a 3-time Super Bowl Most Valuable Player, the first and only player in history to hold that distinction, having just completed the most thorough destruction a Super Bowl has ever seen. 55-10. 35 years later, the record stands. The margin has never been approached. The moment has never been forgotten. The night the Super Bowl forgot what it was supposed to be. 10 games, 10 failures,
10 moments where the most watched sporting event in the world delivered something nobody wanted to see. But here's what's remarkable. Even the worst Super Bowl in history gets remembered. Even 55-10